the 2013 Johannesburg International Motor Show, which is taking place here at NASREC in Johannesburg. This time around, what we're going to do is we're going to focus specifically on green. And so who better than to co-host the show with me than Mr. Green himself, Simon Gear.
Thanks so much, Charlene. I thought we'd have a look around and see what the various manufacturers here at the motor show actually are doing about green motoring. Are they just placating the greenie beanies, or are they actually giving it a full go this time?
Well, you're the biggest greenie around, so have you hugged a tree today?
Must admit, did come here in a petrol engine car, so this is not about pouring the diesel away and getting out the pruning shears, but more just having a look to see if there is a future in green motoring, or whether it really is just a PR stunt.
The environment has been at the forefront of consideration with Opel engineers.
The trend is to have more ecological engines.
From an environmental point of view, a manufacturer or any brand needs to look at the entire supply chain.
You have a car that shows that electric motoring can be exciting from behind the wheel.
There are close to 10 million registered vehicles in South Africa. The environmental impact of that is huge. An event like JIMS gives the public a chance to see what is on offer for the discerning, environmentally aware motorist.
We're here at the motor show surrounded by some of the companies that are considered some of the dirtiest in the world. Do they really care about green motoring?
Whether they care or not is actually a moot point, because the customers care about fuel efficiency, with the fuel price having gone through the roof. So whether they really want to save the planet or not, they want to sell cars, and they'll do anything within their power to do that, including making their vehicles green if necessary. One of the manufacturers that understands the benefits of being green is, of course, GM.
And for you greenie beanies out there, that's not genetically modified, but General Motors.
Opel is the third largest passenger car brand in Europe, and the European market is a very tough place to be at the moment. And despite that, Opel have managed to retain market share, so that's encouraging. And I think it has been based on the environmental awareness, and I think they anticipated the trend to some of the smaller displacement engines. So it's a good time for Opel, even in a tough economic environment.
The new kid on the Opel stand was Adam.
Ian, this is the coolest car on the show. I love it. When can I order one?
We'll have to wait a little bit into 2014 before we complete the exercise of market research that we need to do. But I've got to tell you that we're as excited about the opportunities for not only this Opel Adam, but also a number of other Opel entries in the market in South Africa. So it certainly is an exciting time for us. So you'll have to wait until next year.
What are the Opel engineers doing about environmental issues?
Now, if you go back, Opel was actually the first manufacturer to introduce catalytic converters on all of its vehicles. So the environment has been at the forefront of consideration with Opel engineers, as it is with many Europeans, but Opel certainly led the trend in that.
Is it becoming more of an issue?
It definitely is. If you look at tightening European legislation on fuel economy and CO2 emissions, that becomes a primary consideration. Fuel economy, CO2, lightweighting of vehicles, low displacement turbocharged are all key elements of meeting those environmental considerations.
We're focusing very much on the environment here today.
Yes.
How important is that when you design a vehicle? How important is it to your customers?
It's extremely important when we design the vehicle, and it's extremely important for a corporate position as well. In fact, if you look down in Port Elizabeth, we want to get to zero landfill from our plant by 2015. So we're really focused on it, and we're really looking to how we can better the environment, not just in South Africa, but throughout the globe.
No motor show would be complete without jaw-dropping, stomach-churning, weak-at-the-knees muscle cars. The more oomph under the bonnet, the better.
So what if you're a petrol head with a passion for the environment? Can these beasts accommodate you?
A muscle car that will no doubt get the hormones into a frenzy is the Chev Camaro ZL1 convertible. Green motoring surely takes a back seat when you get behind the wheel of this aggressive V8.
We all think the environment is worth saving, but I've got to tell you that I've fallen completely in love with this car, which I suspect is not that green.
Charlene, it is an amazingly green vehicle.
Tell me why.
It has tremendous power, and believe it or not, gets great mileage per gallon. And it gets great fuel economy. The V8 in this engine will amaze people, not only for its huge amounts of power, but also it gives very nice fuel economy.
That's fantastic news. Please tell me you're bringing it in here in right-hand drive so I can rush out and buy one.
I wish I could tell you that. We have certainly brought it here to see the level of interest in the vehicle. Of course, Chevrolet is always responsive to the consumer and looking to see how we can be better served, or how we can better serve our consumers. Right now, it's not scheduled to come in because we don't have a right-hand drive configuration. But you never know what's going to happen. And if the consumers really voice a strong need and desire for this product, which I'm confident they might, it is a vehicle that we would certainly consider looking at bringing in as a right-hand drive.
One never thinks of bakkies as being the most environmentally friendly vehicles on our roads. But even in this sector of the market, designers are paying attention to the impact they have on our planet.
Are you excited about how their engines have evolved over the years? Because they've become a lot more economical and more powerful at the same time.
Well, I think, the trend is to have more ecological engines, economical engines, and at the same time get that power. So, the technology across the globe has improved. And this diesel is a great alternative, and it's working, and yes, I'm excited about it.
Mario, you were talking about Trail View earlier on. Tell me about that. It sounds cool.
It is cool. It's for all of those outdoorsy kind of people who would like to have an idea of what is it actually like. You have Street View that was done by Google Maps, but all the off-road guys want to know, but where are the off-road maps? And Google Maps doesn't go there. But we've created and tracked the major off-road tracks in South Africa. And so you can get on our website, on the Trailview website, and you can select your Isuzu KB Bucky and actually visualize the trail by going along it on the internet before you then decide to go there with your Isuzu KB and drive it personally.
That's just amazing. I've never heard about this before. Is it unique to Isuzu?
It's absolutely unique to Isuzu, and it's unique to South Africa. Nobody else has done this in the world.
Ford always has a strong presence at the motor show, and this year was no exception, showing the company's ongoing commitment to the South African motor industry. At a small, exclusive press conference, Focus got the opportunity to ask CEO Alan Mullally about the company's commitment to our environment.
In most of the markets around the world, the vast majority, the number one reason, no matter what size vehicle, is fuel efficiency. And that's because the whole world, I think, has gotten so much more aware of how precious the earth is and how we all want to take care of it. So it is a market imperative to us. In early 1900, all of the Ford vehicles were all electric because Henry Ford was a really good friend of Thomas Edison. And they had this grand vision of electric vehicles. And the batteries were big and heavy, and then all of a sudden petrol came, and it was the best storage device, it was the most fuel efficient, highest energy density, and we got cars that could start without a crank, and wham, off we go with the internal combustion engine. Probably the biggest breakthrough we've made in the last few years is lithium-ion chemistry, and it's a great advance, but the batteries are still very expensive. See, on a Focus size vehicle that can go 100 and 120 miles, that battery can weigh 1,000 pounds. It can or more. It can cost $12,000 to $15,000. This is on a car that's $15,000 to $20,000. So you can see what the economics are of that. Now it's great because you're driving on all electric. So I think us focusing on the battery is the most important thing. The way I think electrification will develop is you'll see more hybrids, then you'll see plug-in electric vehicles that have a bigger battery that you can plug in, then you'll see all electric. But it'll go in that progression as we work the enabling technology.
When we return, the focus on green continues.
And we find out just how planet-friendly those huge mother truckers are.
And we also probe and find out just how green a Formula One car is.
Probably not all that green, but they certainly look like a whole bunch of fun.
Welcome back to Focus on Green at the 2013 Johannesburg International Motor Show.
Environmentally friendly Formula One sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, but in the last 15 years, the pinnacle of motorsport has made some pretty impressive environmental gains. Sasha, you're South Africa's #1 Formula One fundi, and it's clearly a lot of fun. But should we be feeling guilty about it, just going around in circles, lots of noise and spewing out fumes?
No, I don't think we should be feeling guilty at all. I think Formula One is the pinnacle of motoring, and because of that, it's also going to be responsible. So it brings in safety, and I know where you're alluding to on this, but it's very, very responsible in terms of the environment. It tries to be as much as it can, considering what it actually is.
When you go and speak to individual teams, I mean, is there an environmental ethos? Is there a concern around sort of fuel efficiency and resource efficiency, or is it all about just going fast and being competitive?
It's a great point that you do bring up. Next year, for example, in the regulations, they've got 100 litres. That's it. You've got 100 litres, you've got to do the whole race on that. So that is bringing in fuel efficiency. It is going to bring in, I won't say biofuels, but it'll bring in hybrid fuels that they're going to have to use to make it more environmentally friendly. They are responsible about this, but they're also racing drivers, they're racing teams, and they do want to go as fast as they can.
So from F1 cars that only weigh 700 kilograms to these heavy hitters of our highways.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that a truck that weighs 56 tons and travels along at the maximum speed limit of 80 kilometers an hour could actually be fuel efficient, would you?
Looks about as environmentally friendly as a coal-fired power station.
But Simon, that's just not true. The manufacturers have made huge leaps when it comes to fuel efficiency and economy. They really have. They've done an amazing job.
And of course, when you make trucking more efficient, it makes your entire economy more efficient. Casper, how concerned are your customers about green motoring?
Simon, they're very concerned. The main reason for their concern is that cleaner engines, better fuel, results in better fuel consumption and obviously reducing operating costs. And ultimately, from a private consumer point of view, it hopefully leads to a cheaper product or less price increases. And I think every operator is really interested in that.
Do you find that fuel efficiency is about truck design and optimal maintenance, or is it also about driver behavior?
It's both. There's no question that driver behavior and good quality and well-trained drivers can reduce the fuel bill, but you cannot do it without a good truck and with good technology.
Steve, the perception of many South Africans is that trucks are noisy, dirty, smelly creatures. Is that true?
No, of course, we would strongly deny that. But we've invested a lot of money as Scania over the last decade or so in trying to improve the emission levels and pollutants of our trucks.
To what extent have trucks improved over the years?
I would say largely in terms of aerodynamics, as well, of course, as I just mentioned about the emission levels. But aerodynamics have improved. For example, this new vehicle, the Streamline, is far more aerodynamic than it was before, not just on the skin, but under the skin as well. And of course, that reduces fuel consumption.
Trucks were well represented at the Johannesburg International Motor Show, and one would expect their stands to be massive enough to house the giants of our roads. But this year, Isuzu Trucks took a gentler approach and embraced the fine arts.
You've done something really unusual here at JIMS. You're displaying original art. Tell me about that and why you've decided to do that.
We're in a very conventional, staid type of environment of hard-working capital goods. So life's about having a little bit of fun and looking at things a little bit differently. We like to look at things differently. So yes, we've got the hardware on the right-hand side, and we call the artwork on the left-hand side our software. And it's really just showing what can be done locally, because they're all local aspirant artists. Every piece was commissioned by a different person. So it's a bit putting back into an environment that has nothing to do with trucks, but have a bit of fun and see what came up, and I'm very pleased to see what came up.
One of your major driving points is the environment, and you want to come up with technology that is greener. What are you doing in that regard?
We already have vehicles running in this market that we haven't publicized too generically, particularly hybrids, and we've got some gas vehicles also. The hybrid's probably been running the longest. It's been running over 3 years already in this market.
Craig, you made a huge announcement this morning. Tell us what that was all about.
Charlene, yeah, I guess it's inevitable. We've been at this 7 years now as ITSA, as a 50-50 joint venture to focus on the truck business. That was the whole idea. But it's time now to move on and divert the focus a little bit more. Isuzu's the main supplier of the brand here, and they've now taken a majority shareholding of 70% of Isuzu Trucks South Africa. So with that comes obviously investment, focus, attention, and we've got to do the job we're meant to do and focus on medium and heavy commercials.
How important is the whole green scene to transport operators?
It's cottoning on, I must say, with all the activity and negativity in the industry around operators with poor vehicles and drivers, etc. It's been totally overshadowed, unfortunately. But they are the ones at the top end who are being extremely responsible. So we've got a huge void, dichotomy if you want to call it, of the ones that are trying really hard. Let's call it your blue chip leaders in the industry and decision and opinion leaders. And you've got the guys right at the bottom end who are worlds away.
And today you've introduced AMT in the N series, which is the bread and butter truck, isn't it? Tell us what that vehicle is used for, practically on a day-to-day basis.
In the 2-ton sector, that critically has always historically had a little bit of a fear factor where you're bridging the gap from a code 8 to a code 10. But in this country, as we know, irrespective of how they get their licenses on the transport side, they end up by default with a code 8. So we're trying to target the bottom end of those drivers, entry-level drivers, that have no skill. And AMT takes a no-skill driver and makes him average. So it's a relevance, but at the same time giving operators control over cost, because it doesn't necessarily mean, and the fear of a truck operator is a truck will cost you an awful lot more to run than a bakkie or a pickup. And it's not. We've proved that in this category truck, together with the technology of an AMT, you can actually run that vehicle cheaper than a pickup. But you're getting the productivity and the efficiency, one driver, not two drivers. So we're targeting new markets and trying to move people's mindset and convention into the future, because we've got to box smarter and the world is full of challenges and costs. So we challenge them to challenge us to try it and see what we can do for their businesses. And it goes all small businesses, even the big corporates. There's a huge buy-down factor to save money. Productivity needs to go up. So we're selling more and more models that are always one model down from the convention.
Right, time to get really green. In fact, cars that are so green and dainty, we could put them in a salad.
Put them in a salad. Simon, I think you should stick to doing the weather.
Before Simon could make his green car salad, I dragged him to GM's stand for another look at the V8 Camaro to discuss looks.
The guys from General Motors were telling me that the remarkable thing about this car is it's surprisingly frugal, but I don't think that's important.
Couldn't agree more. All those guys driving the Nissan Leaf and the Toyota Prius, they're not turning heads nearly as much as the jockeys driving one of these things.
Which begs the question, why do green cars have to be gross?
I wouldn't call it gross necessarily, but they are terribly earnest. Well, I've left Charlene in the Chevy, which is 6 on wheels, and come up here to the BMW stand to have a look at this little i3, which I have to admit looks a little bit like a stormtrooper's helmet. It just screams green motoring. And why can't we make green cars as sexy as some of the muscle cars around here? Guy, why did BMW decide to design something that just screams green motoring?
I think, Simon, what you have to understand about the i3 is it's the world's first car designed for electromobility from the ground up. So you see it as screaming green, but you're actually just seeing it as being different. It doesn't look like a conventional car, and that's because it doesn't need to be a conventional car.
Now, what's particularly interesting is if we move across to the next car in your lot, we've got, the first BMW supercar that I've seen in a very, very long time, and it's a hybrid. Now, this is a green car, which looks like it could attract a far broader audience.
Well, I think what you have to understand about the i3 and the i8 is they do two things. One is they create cars that are unique for electromobility from the outset. In the i8, you have a car that shows that electromobility can be sexy from outside of the wheel.
Okay, I was wrong. These cars are damn sexy. So we've just been to BMW to have a look at their green car offering, and let's be honest, BMW, a bit of a yuppie brand, so we thought we'd come here to Nissan and have a look at their Leaf. Are the people who are going to be buying this buying it out of some moral obligation to the planet, or are they buying it because of some inherent benefits of an electric vehicle?
I think, let's be honest, at the starting price that you mentioned, it's early adopters, and that mindset is more focused towards technology, being first, and having a new product to kind of be seen in.
Do you require a charging station at your destination as well, or is this something that you can really run purely from your home garage?
You require a charging point at your home. I think there it is on the other side of the car. It would be installed at your house. And if you want, you can put one at your office as well.
And is that Nissan specific, or will your neighbor who's maybe got the BMW car be able to come and charge his at yours?
That depends if BMW want to play ball and put the same kind of plug on their vehicle, but at this point it looks like no.
And now for vehicles that are greener than green.
These are all the solar cars that are here at JIMS this year, and you can see, look very futuristic, obviously very, very clean. They get all their energy from the sun. But the truth of the matter is, their primary role is as a training ground for young engineers. So all of these are built by South African universities, usually as master's level projects. And as far as technology transfer is concerned, we tend to use these as test beds for rooftop solar rather than for a technology that we can ultimately translate into the sort of car that you're going to drive to work one day.
That's it from Focus on Green at the Johannesburg International Motor Show.
And let's be honest, if I was going to encourage all of you to be truly green motorists, I'd get you all out on bicycles, but it's not really realistic on Johannesburg's roads.
I wouldn't want to try that. But as we're leaving our viewers, Simon, you are the ultimate greenie beanie. Do you have any thought-provoking advice for our viewers?
I look at all of these cars that they're bringing out, and they don't solve the core problem of our transport systems. And I think we need to take a step back from the individual vehicles and have a look at the way we move people around our cities. And once we start fixing those sort of issues, then motoring is going to become automatically greener.
Well, that's all from us, folks, and I'm out of here in the Camaro.
You take that car home, I might welcome with you.